Hello, everybody, and welcome to the North American Star League Division number 5. This will be concluding our week number 1, and there's no better way to conclude it with the list of names we're about to go in. But before I do, as always, I would like to introduce myself, and you're probably wondering who this mysterious little man is next to me. That is, of course, the person I'll introduce after me. I am Jeff In Control Robinson, and I am so happy to be here with you guys. And to my right is the ever so handsome Andre Greetorp Hengshua. How the hell are you, buddy?
Wonderful today. It's been an exciting week. Definitely a lot of ups and downs, but
Yes.
we've gone through it. Some matches weren't played, but I think we've definitely made a schedule that's going to protect the players a little bit more. And it's going to be really nice, and I'm really looking forward to week number 2.
I mean, that is absolutely true. It's a really ambitious schedule, guys. 5 days a week with this many games for 10 weeks is a long time, and understandably there's going to be bumps in the road. However, it's really important that both sides of the party, the North American Star League and the player, is willing to communicate and work with each other. And so far, that seems to be the case. So hopefully pushing forward, there's 0 walkovers. We'd love that. I mean, but the fact of the matter is there are other fantastic leagues, and these players are so darn good that they're all involved in just about all of them. So these things are going to happen. We're going to just do the best we can to bring the games to you, because at the end of the day, we are a league, and if we don't have games, then we're just 2 guys in jackets. And, there could be better jackets out there, I suppose. So that's that. Thank you all for tuning in. Low quality, high quality, pirates alike. We appreciate all of you, some more than others. But still, thank you all for being here. We're going to go ahead and just go through the players, talk about them well, actually not talk about them. We're just going to go through the players, go to the maps, and then talk about the players in depth. And again, just as a reminder, because this actually gets brought up quite a bit, if you don't like talking about these games, if you don't like the maps, this is the pregame show. Think of it as, like a ESPN Sunday football discussion. Like, we're not going to have any games for another about 30 minutes. So if that isn't your bag, go heat up some Hot Pockets, go make yourself a brew of green tea, and come back in a few moments. But for right now, it's going to be a lot of talking. So if you find that boring, go play Call of Duty or something like that. We'll be right back. But with that being said, let's talk about some of these, or let's fire off the players.
All right, so match number 1 is going to be featuring EG's Idra against ATN Sock. That's going to be a pretty epic CVP. Match number 2 is going to be featuring Mao's Mana against Liquid Tyler. Match number 3 is going to have LG's Pain User against MYM's Cloud. Match number 4 is going to be OGS Zenio versus Fnatic MSI Sen. And last but not least, we have Root Druby going up against Slayer's Boxer. You might have heard of him.
Yeah, he's probably not the most famous StarCraft player in all of history. I mean, we did have Nada just a little while ago, but now we have Boxer. It's kind of it's insane. Yeah. I'm sorry, it's actually so awesome. But let's go ahead and, those are the players. Let's talk about the maps they're going to play on, because the maps do change with each day, just ever so slightly. Today we actually have Metalopolis, Crevasse, and then the new map, Typhon Peaks. And Typhon Peaks is a Blizzard ladder map. We'll talk about that here in a second. Let's go in order. First and foremost, Metalopolis and how this kind of relates to this group. Now, we do have 4 mirror matchups, and that's inescapable. Yeah. I wish I could pretend it's otherwise, but let's go ahead and get the mirror matchups out of the way, I guess, in week number 1. And that's cool by me, because this division number 5 is actually stacked with amazing players. Metalopolis is not the MLG Metalopolis for right now, especially. I mean, we're always looking to improve, so we are talking about the maps. Whether or not this will change, we'll have to wait and see. There is no official word just yet. But for right now, that means there can be close positions. Yep. Now, in a mirror matchup, that's not quite as big of a deal, Retort, but this is our middle-sized map, and in close positions it becomes, I would say, a small-sized map.
It's like Steps of War almost.
Yeah.
The rush distances are so close. So it makes, especially for Zerg, it makes them really weak, in my opinion. Just the fact that they can't get their expansion up in a safe manner is a huge problem, and I think hopefully we can have a good discourse about this. We can talk about the maps, and I think maybe it will change in the future. And that's the best part about I think the North American Star League is that we don't have that bureaucratic stuff that we have to go through. We can
not
just
as much.
talk about it. Well, it's not as big. We're not so rigid with it. We can change, and we've proven that we've done that before.
We just gotta make sure it's fair to the players. So, I mean, if it does start, it's gonna be at the beginning of a play week, and we'll talk about that. We'll see. Yeah. So, not to get all your guys' hopes up, because we have to do what we have to do. And I played in a lot of tournaments with a lot lot of tough maps. I mean, it certainly is a part of StarCraft. So if we can change it, we will, and that'd be awesome. But if we can't, I'll just tell you, as a pro player, I've had to overcome it, and so has every other StarCraft player in this league. There's nobody who's been like, wow, this is the first tournament with a map I disagree with. Actually, no, that there's no tournament like that. So more specifically to Metalopolis, we've talked about this week in and week out, so we won't berate you guys too much with it, but I really do feel like a couple of the important points here is that we do have a couple TVTs with Boxer versus Darubi, and those high-yield expansions are going to be extremely important. You got to look for them. When a Terran lands there, gets that planetary fortress up, and is able to secure that, it's almost lights out, and just about everybody agrees with that, even in a TVT. That's a huge advantage, but it's highly exposed in that middle of the map. It's accessible by 3 ramps on either side, but also reachable by the Xel'Naga towers, which are high points of interest, and even the other high-yield expansion across the way. So really look to see that base be kind of a high point of contention, and we actually saw that in the OGS Nada versus 6GX DDE match, where the fact that DDE was pressuring Nada at the high-yield expansion is kind of actually where Nada found the opening to then drop the production line of DDE.
Yeah. I mean, just the fact that Marines are so strong with their DPS, a lot of times players can get their, once you situate your command center or your hatcher or whatever it is, you can mask those basic units, and it gives you a lot of room to play with. It lets you get over to the other opponent's side, and we're probably going to be seeing a lot of contention in that gold expansion. But regardless of that, as we said before, it's the gridiron. It's the standard map. You can play in every style. We're not going to berate you too much with that, but just know that that's the map that's probably the most standard in our entire map pool.
And one final note on it, we do open up with Idra versus Sok on that map, and Idra, a very outspoken individual, does not like close positions for Zerg on that map. So everyone, please, no close positions. I mean, bias aside, I actually just want to see an amazing game, and close positions sometimes in that matchup on that map can make for a tough game. Now, of course, there have been some amazing games close positions, so we're not necessarily outright denied it. But let's just hope for that. Come on,
Probability-wise, it's only a 1/3 chance, so it's pretty good. Crossing my fingers at that for sure.
Let's do it. And then map number 2 is going to be Crevasse. This is a map we saw actually not yesterday, but in our last play day for division number 4. And this one is one of the maps that we're talking about, too. We need to update this one as well. Right now, it's actually a pretty good Zerg map. So for all the anguish of the Zerg players in this first, if they get close positions on Metalopolis, Crevasse actually kind of repairs them because they're like, oh, well, this map's okay. I mean, it's actually pretty awesome. 6 gas right off the bat. The natural expansions within kind of the main perimeter, actually, and then down a ramp, there's another base that's actually fairly easily defended, which is your second natural or third base. It's not like it's got its own little tiny ramp and it's super awesome to defend, but it's not as open as like even a Metalopolis natural.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, just the fact that the natural is so accessible and it has 2 gas on there instead of 1, it makes it very dangerous for Zerg players to just get very early, and they can go and tech switch. They can go to mutas. They can mask those mutas, which are really strong. And if they can get them mutas up and be able to defend early on, they gain a lot of map control, and it gives them so much more than normal maps. So I'm not sure. We're probably going to see an update with that map. Hopefully, week 2 we will have an answer for you. Regardless, we're going to say something about it. We're going to release a statement about the maps because it's very important that we stay up to date with everything in the current scene.
And I think it's pretty cool, actually. I know for a fact, because I'm one of the pro players on the discussion, MLG has done a tremendous job of this season saying, here's our maps, but we're going to have an ongoing discussion about the maps, and we'll be willing to change them as well. So I think it's actually kind of a cool climate right now where the maps are not... Because in days of old, I remember in Broodwar, it was like, here's our maps. And we'd be like, that map's completely broken, you can't do that map. And they're like, it's our map. And it's like, but the tournament's so important to me. It's our map. So it's kind of nice in this new climate where it's like, actually what's most important is getting the most high-quality games on these maps. So if it needs to be updated, we're going to talk about it, and we're going to work that in. But for right now, this is our map, which is good for Idra in that first matchup. It is the map number 2. It is fixed, so he's going to have to fall back on that Crevasse map. If he goes into that with a 1-0 lead off of Metalopolis, he's got to be feeling strong. Now, The other players that have to look at this map as well, kind of interesting, is that the second expansion is really forward. It's more towards the middle of the map. But then there's raised ground and I think even like a gap in space going into that natural. But what we saw actually is that in the machine match against Stall Life, there was a lot of pressure at the front of the second expansion and then dropping at the natural within even the main grounds. And that actually allows for a lot of multi-prong attacks. And that's not necessarily unique to other maps, but that the second base is more forward, more towards the middle of the map. And that unique dynamic is really important to point out because anytime you have a shorter distance to an opponent's base, but then another base that's only accessible through air or drops or something like that, it creates a unique situation for that two-prong attack.
Yeah, and last thing to note about this map, do keep in mind there is rotational symmetry, and because we have a lot of mirror matchups today, 4 mirror matchups,
yes,
it can lead for some, just right off the spawning advantages for certain players with rotational symmetry. It's minor, and for the players to actually use that advantage, it does require them to do drop play and things like that.
I'm actually really looking forward to the PvP. I know that European Protosses love to 4-gate, but then they have a lot of expansion builds that actually fall back off of that. Yeah. So Mana versus Liquid Tyler, Mao's Mana versus Liquid Tyler, look for some kind of like faking the aggression and then falling back on that super accessible expansion, almost within their main.
I wouldn't be surprised with that whatsoever. So map number 3 is going to be our new map. It is going to be featuring Typhon Peaks. This is going to be a Blizzard map that is going to be making its first debut, I do believe, in a major tournament. Now, Typhon Peaks has a very wide natural. That's probably the biggest thing. And every single third you take is either far away or has a 360-degree form of harass onto that expansion.
Yeah, even the one that's right next to the natural is low ground, and it can be attacked from all angles, but it also has a second pathway into it obstructed by destructible rocks. So one of the things I really like about this map is I feel like it introduces different dynamics in the sense that there's a lot of elevation play going on, the raised ground to the going up into the main, the lower ground going down into the third, but also this map actually has something that we'll actually have to see how this pans out, but it has almost the Shakira's Plateau kind of back door. So if a player spawns top right and bottom right, there's actually 2 destructible rocks separating them from kind of a shortcut. I mean, we can go ahead and coin it. He hasn't made it here yet, but the Tasteless Alley or something like that. I mean, he loves those little back doors. But I feel like that is really powerful for non-Zerg, unfortunately. Like Terran can push up through there, siege from the bottom, and apply pressure to the natural. Or Protoss can use their Colossus and their tremendous range to, again, create really good alleyways for them. That's not to say that Zerg doesn't have use for that path as well. There's Roaches tear it down very quick, and actually the way that back destructible rock faces, there's the natural, and usually you want to defend kind of the front end of the natural. These rocks are actually just behind that, which allow for a really good counter opportunity.
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of ability to take advantage of those rocks, but before that, the players have to secure a natural. And I think that's going to speak a lot. If one player goes to fast expand, it's going to be very difficult to hold. You have a lot of area to be defending, plus you have a ramp to be worrying about. If they run up, let's say, a Protoss runs up and they force field the ramp or something.
Yeah.
Or they can just force field the ramp right away, segment your army, and no reinforcements are coming in. So there's a lot of different plays that all races can do. I'm really looking forward to this map. We do have mirror matchups galore today, so I'm not too worried about, huge... the only thing we have to worry about is Zerg versus Protoss with that sort of thing. But
everybody has the same chances.
Exactly. Everybody has the same chances. I'm really looking forward to this map, actually, just because of the mirror matchups, though.
And one last point about it, and this is something I love to bring up, and a lot of people might overlook this, but it's actually extremely important. The Xel'Naga towers on this map are very relevant. There's 2 of them. They sit right smack dab in the middle, actually on either side of the middle of this map. And the middle is very wide open, which is actually a nice opportunity for Zerg to get that huge concave against like a Protoss. Look for that if Idra versus Sok does go to Game 3. But those towers actually overlook both alleyways leading up into the mains on either side of the map. It's a 4-player map. So controlling those gives you a lot of information in terms of where your opponent's coming in and out. And the reason I bring that up is because those Xel'Naga towers need to always be a point of contention for the players in that game. If they're not, then one player is either abusing the crap out of it and dominating the other player in information, or both players are kind of bad. Or situationally, I guess they could just not be doing that. But those are the maps. We did talk about how we're looking at updates. We're looking at making sure that these maps are the best for the players, so do stay tuned for that. We appreciate your constructive criticism. It is not absent to us. Retorp and I are both professional players, so it's not like we hear that and we're like, well, that's absurd. You know, these maps are amazing. No, of course, we always want to have the best maps. So we will be thinking about that. Typhon Peaks and Backwater Gulch, however, have gotten a lot of slack, and on those maps, I can say with confidence, they will stay here. At least one tournament's going to run those around, and we're going to see how they go. Much like Test Bug and MLG, that was an unproven map, but people are giving it a shot, and we're going to do the same thing here. So, you know, stay tuned for that kind of stuff, and hopefully it'll pan out, or maybe I'll make an apology video at the end of the season. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I didn't make the map choices, but we'll see. We'll see.
You did.
Now, let's talk about the players, because this is, I mean, a lot of people look at this division, and I remember as they were announcing the names, they were like, oh my God, Division 5, what? He's going in there as well? What? It is a stacked division, and we cannot wait to get into these names.
Yeah, match number 5 is the legendary Slayer's Boxer going up against Root Druby. And I don't even think I need to say anything about Slayer's Boxer, but I will just to reiterate what you already know. Slayer's Boxer is probably the most famous player in all of esports history, not just Brood War history, esports history.
What? He's up there.
Yeah.
He's way up there, yeah.
I think he pioneered high-level micro in coming into Brood War. He was just so meticulous with his army and able to be cost-effective in every single battle that he did. It's almost like he exploited a lot of different units, and he did a lot of mind games. One of them that comes to mind is the tank drop, and then he brings his dropship over, baits all the units away.
I forgot about that.
And then he sieges the tanks up on the mineral line. That was like a lot of clever play from Boxer, really showing the metagame styles of really Terran, but all of Brood War. And now he's brought that into StarCraft 2, and he's had so much success right off the get-go.
He's nicknamed the Emperor. He's dating a celebrity. Every time he shows up, there's like a paparazzi mob behind him at any event. Anyone who's had the luxury of interacting with him, and I've actually spoken to Slayer's Boxer, and he is a gentleman. He is intelligent. I've actually met a lot of celebrities in my day, and a lot of them will be like, yeah, nice to meet you, it's cool, you know, and then they walk on, because they meet a lot of people. It's not like they're bad people for that, but Slayer's Boxer will look you in the eye, and he will try his best to understand you if you don't speak Korean, and he will be a gentleman. He makes you feel like for that moment in time, you are kind of important to him. And I mean, we could go on and on about him, to be honest, and we should. But we do have a time restraint. Just kind of know if some of you are unfamiliar with Brood War, StarCraft 2, and the history. If you're interested at all, please do pursue information about Slayer's Boxer. Go to Liquipedia, go to Team Liquid, put a search in for his name, and just come up with some information on him, because he's a living legend. He's actually a part of this game that there's not a single person that looks at him and says, well, we could have done without him. No. He's expanded this game with his microplay. He's opened up new doors, and we owe a lot to Slayer's Boxer. And what's really fun, too, is that everybody that plays against him or is in the division, almost without a doubt, says, I am so excited to play Slayer's Boxer. And I would not be surprised if Root Druby had to say the same.
No, absolutely not. Root Druby has a Brood War background, so he definitely knows who Slayer's Boxer is. I would characterize his style, though, as just an all-around strong style.
Yeah.
He is famous for doing his Druby drops. He did popularize that in the beta. He really likes to drop. He thinks that he actually broke it down to me. He said, dropping takes very minimal effort from me and pushes a lot of pressure on his opponents. So why not just drop in everywhere the entire game consistently? And I think that speaks a lot to his style, as he keeps that up from beginning to end.
Yeah, I've had we both have, I'm sure. You've played Druby a lot, right?
Yes.
Before I move forward. Yeah. I've played Druby a lot. He's a very high-level player, a fantastic guy. He is from Root Gaming, so do check them out at root-gaming.com. One of the many players in this league, actually, Root sent a lot of players. We actually even had to not have a couple root players because they have so many. Not necessarily because of any rule, but just because we don't oversaturation. And they deservedly could be in this league as well. Root Minigun comes to mind. He's a fantastic Protoss player. But in this TVT, I am looking forward to these players because on the one hand, we have the Legend Slayers Boxer, who is a fantastic Korean professional. And on the other, we have a North American professional from Root Gaming in Druby, who has done very, very well in big tournaments like MLG and everything online. He's actually one of the big Terran names in all of North America. And TVT, I'm not going to lie, I'm a little biased. I love that matchup. And so far, TVT's lived up to the hype in NASL. We did have DDE going down to the wire with Nada.
If you haven't already, check out that game, DDE versus Nada. And if it's anything like that game, Slayers Boxer against Root Druby, yeah, we're in for a huge treat, that's going to be an amazing matchup. But enough about that. We have to go into the other players. Match number 4, it's going to be featuring OGS Zenio versus Fnatic MSI Sen. And I know a little bit about Sen.
Yeah.
This guy is probably the goofiest guy ever. But when it comes to gaming, he's the most serious person I've ever met before in my life. He takes his training extremely seriously. He trains forever. And not only that, he's such an intelligent player. I would characterize his style as more of a passive-aggressive style. He likes the low economy, but he likes the low economy into high aggression, but off of that is able to macro a storm up and then get that huge amount of economy to burst into endgame. It's really quite amazing what he can do. But he's going against OGS Zenio in a ZVZ.
Yeah, and ZVZ is quite exciting as well. We did see Moonglade versus Slush. It was a high-level game. Real quick on Sen, because I got to put my plug in here too. In my opinion, and this is Greg might actually hate me just a little bit for saying this. I think Sen is the best foreigner Zerg right now, and of course he was Taiwanese/Chinese, so it's a little bit. Is he a foreigner? For right now, we can say yes. He's a non-Korean. I think he's the best, and he's going up against OGS Zenio, who, speak of the devil, Greg. Has a little bit of a conflict with Idra, and we'll have to wait for a later week for that one. That's going to be awesome. Zenio's been very outspoken about that. But Zenio's one of the bad boys of Korea. He actually carries a little bit of a swagger with him. He's got a little bit of attitude, and rightfully so. He's one of the best Zerg players. He's done very, very well over there, has a lot of high accomplishments. But he doesn't know... Well, actually, Greetorp and I were trying to research before this if they've played each other, and we actually weren't able to find something, but I think I agree with you, we've heard that they've played each other.
I do believe so.
But he's at least heard of Sen, I'm almost certain of it, because Sen's been in Korea for different events, GSL, etc., so I'm sure they've kind of interacted with each other. It's going to be really fun to see this matchup. This is two of the best Zergs on the planet, ladies and gentlemen. If you were wondering what ZVZ looks like at the highest levels, match number 4 is going to answer that for you, because I guarantee you a high-octane, great series between these two players.
Couldn't agree more. Match number 3 is going to be featuring LG Pain User going against MYM Cloud.
Yes.
And Cloud is originally a Brood War player, but I want to get on Pain User first because he's near and dear to my heart. I met him I first met him in MLG, and throughout every single MLG I've gone to, I've seen him. He's the tall giant.
The poor guy, he's such a good player, and you're absolutely right. I mean, that's the first thing we got to say. He's like 7 feet tall. Yeah.
Yeah. I always look up to him. I'm like hugging him at his waist. It's really awkward, actually. Extremely awkward.
Yeah, the crotch hug. It is a little bit awkward. Yeah. LG Pain User from Lazarus Gaming, the sole representative of that team, but a fantastic team based out of California. They do very well at MLGs. And Pain User is okay, one of the things to talk about with him is that a lot of people are like, well, he doesn't really practice. He hasn't been playing that much. When it's tournament time, this guy turns it on. He actually does so well at MLGs. I think he took, was it 4th in the last MLG Dallas, the one before this one? Something like that. Very, very high. And he was in the top 16. He does very well for himself. A powerful, powerful Terran player. I actually recently found out he does not hotkey any of his armies, so that's kind of an interesting point. Do with that what you will, but after you see how well he plays, maybe that gives you even more respect for him, because it's like, what? How do you even move those things around?
It's funny, because he doesn't have pristine macro.
Yeah.
He has actually very good micro, but his macro, I wouldn't characterize it as the best in the world by any means. But his decision-making, his army composition...
Very smart player.
one of the smartest players I've ever met before. Just so deliberate, very accurate, and it's like he doesn't lose anything in any fights.
Yeah.
And with that, he's able to win against some huge players. And I've actually played him before, and I'll be macroing up a storm, and I feel like I'm doing a lot better than him. And all of a sudden, he's able to micro and just be so cost efficient with his army. It's truly an art to watch.
Yeah. And he'll be going up against MYM Cloud, that is Meet Your Makers Cloud from Italy. I gotta say, and we gotta go through the next couple pretty quick here, just so we can get into these games. But Cloud doesn't get no respect, to put it into silly terms. He is one of the better Terrans in all of Europe, and time in and time again, these invitational tournaments roll around, and he's not invited, he's not included, and he's just silently in and around the top 5 or 10 of every tournament in Europe. He's one of the better players.
Yeah, he's actually called the Cookie Monster, if you do know. And I'm not sure why either, because I know he won a big tournament, the Fnatic Play tournament, where he actually got a laptop and a lot of cash prize. He's been up in the ranks for everything in every tournament.
The FXO tournaments, he knocked out like 3 pros.
He's been such a consistent professional player too. I'm not sure why, but he's going to be making his official huge debut.
I know. Yeah, we almost have to use that word. You're right.
And I can't wait, because I think he's going to prove a lot of people wrong.
Yeah.
That he is one of the top contenders.
I'm glad he's not in my division.
He's a huge dark horse, I think, to a lot of the people, but to me, I think he's actually just up there. And I think he'll be able to win this. I'm not gonna.
Whoops.
I have a little bias. I really like Cloud's play, to be honest.
Bias?
No, I didn't.
Okay. Be careful. There is no bias.
What?
The world is equal. Now, in matchup number 2, we have Mao's Mana versus Liquid Tyler. Mao's Mana, one of the best Protosses in all of Europe, has, again, a Brood War background, done fantastically well. He took second to Nama. Am I saying that correctly?
I love that, too. It was like his first tournament.
Yeah.
And he's like, all right, I guess I'll do this. Oh, got second.
Really,
cool.
really good player. Been around for a long time in the Brood War scene as one of the best Protoss players there as well. We're really looking forward to that, because he's paired up against Liquid Tyler. The North American hero, this guy is America. Chiltoss. He is a host of State of the Game. He's one of the hometown heroes from Team Liquid.net, representing the Little App Factory. And he just recently got knocked out of TSL. He was the last representative of Team Liquid in that tournament. And again, the kind of ongoing storyline, and not made any better by HeyPro yesterday, and Rhett actually, or not yesterday, but last play day, is Team Liquid's on the slide. So again, it's kind of, with each player from Team Liquid, we're looking for that victory. We're looking for that big one. Is Tyler going to be that guy? We'll see in a big PvP matchup. And then to kick things off, we do have EG Idra. I don't know. And Alternate Attack Sock. These guys, this is actually like their 5th meeting in the last of all the tournaments. They've actually hit each other each time, basically.
And Idra has gotten the better of him, I do believe, and recently. Sock has a very eccentric style, and I think his style was a little nerfed with the High Templar patch.
Yes.
Unfortunately, but he's not. He will change his style. He's changed it. We've seen. Although I'm kind of worried, because I think Idra's style is a definite counter to Sock right now. I mean, the macro play, just the robust style that Idra has, it's going to be able to fend off the very aggressive, well, I shouldn't say aggressive, it's more of a harass type style that Sock has.
Yeah, I mean, Evil Genius's Idra, wildly considered one of the greatest foreigners in StarCraft 2, barring any race, just one of the best players in the game. Has been in a bit of a roadblock lately with ZVP. It's actually no small mystery that he's been very outspoken, feeling like this matchup needs some touch-ups from Blizzard even, or even just work kind of on the side. But Idra is a professional and has been for longer than most of us, spending time in Korea with Estro and CJ Entis, 2 Korean professional teams for Brood War, and working in that environment. This man's work ethic is very hard to compare to a lot of us. He will actually grind out like 14 hours in a day, just mechanically going through this game and dismembering people. He is known for his APM, his handle of the game. I guess it's just raw mechanics is what we can say. Not necessarily the most creative player, but certainly one of the most physically capable players of this game. He will be going up against Sock. Sock is a very cerebral Protoss, very timing-based, very creative. I mean, as Greetorp said, he was very Templar-reliant, but more so in PvT. This is actually going to be a great way to kick off this division. Both these players have tremendous respect for each other. And I know what you're saying. Yeah, no, that's not true. Actually, Idra has told me personally that he respects Sok, and that's so cool. I mean, both these guys are fantastic players. So, Evil Genius's Idra versus Alternate Attack Sok will be our first match. We're going to go into a short break, and then we're going to get right into the game.